Welcome to the Mindful Movement Show. We're your hosts, Tony and Amanda Johnson.
This is a podcast dedicated to helping moms and dads heal their hurts, transform their health from the inside out, and become the best people, partners, and parents they can possibly be.
Our mission is to normalize struggle and profile stories of resilience, character building, and the process of healing and becoming.
In Season 1, we spotlight healers from a variety of modalities who are also parents. We hope you enjoy the show. Happy New Year, Mindful and Fit fam, and also happy Mindful Monday. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's holiday celebration and that you're back in the gym, out on the walking trails, doing your meditations, getting ready for making 2023 the best year yet. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this week's episode of the Mindful Movement Show. We are so thrilled to have Todd Durkin on the show this week. Todd is a husband and a parent of three amazing young people, Luke, Brady, and McKenna. He is also an internationally recognized author, speaker, and strength and conditioning coach. He was a trainer on NBC's Strong, has been featured in Men's Health, the New York Times, and he's also an Under Armour sponsored athlete. He has been a mentor to me and Amanda for many years. And so if you've worked with us, you've benefited from Todd's immense wisdom as well. His mentorship has meant the world to us. And so we are so excited to go deep in a way that can inspire you to live in alignment, improve your mindset, and turn your pain into your purpose. On today's episode, we will dive into TD's formative experiences that have led him to creating impact around the globe, discuss some of his struggles and the strategies he's undertaken to rise above them, and we'll gain some insight into the importance of living a life worth telling a story about, specifically exploring what gives him the courage to share his story in such a real and vulnerable way. Welcome to the show, Todd. We're so grateful to have you on and can't wait to light up our listeners with this conversation. How are you?
Thank you for the introduction and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend.
I'm pumped up for 2023. I know you are as well. And it's an honor to be on your show, Tony. I'm so proud of what you're doing. And Amanda and your family, to see you thriving and creating impact on this show and beyond is just awesome. So congratulations and Happy New Year. And I'm excited for our conversation today.
And honestly, Todd, without you and your influence and your impact that you've spread throughout the world and without your tremendous inspiration, none of this is possible. One of our core beliefs as a family, as a business, and as a show is that our experiences shape who we are and how we show up in the world. So this is kind of like a big picture question, but I'm curious if you can share with our audience some of the pivotal experiences that shape how you show up as a person, a partner, a parent, and a coach.
Well, I'll answer that in two ways, Tony. And first off, again, when I say Happy New Year, I don't know if you share in the same excitement that I have and enthusiasm for the new year. The further we get away from the pandemic, the better. So I'm excited. I think now is a great time for change and evolution and shifting. And I'm sure anyone listening to the show right now shares in that same excitement that we've got a blank slate for this new year. And this blank slate allows us to create whatever it is. And, you know, you ask about past experiences and all of us have them. I just know this, you can either be led by your dreams or pushed down by your problems. And I choose to be led by my dreams, not to be pushed down by my problems, not to just be so inundated with the problems that exist in this world or in life. But I'm like, okay, when the vision is set, we have the vision now as we finalize and crystallize the vision for 2023. It's like, okay, where are we going? And I just hope that each and every one of you listening in today shares that same enthusiasm for the vision of what is possible in 2023, because there is a lot that's possible. And I'm so excited for the new year. I really am. More than any years I can remember in the last decade, that I feel like there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of opportunity. There's just a lot of ways to create great impact in our lives and our families and our businesses this year. So that all lends back to your question. Again, I'm pumped up, Tony. I'm pumped up for the new year. Do you want me to share about some of those experiences?
That'd be great. Yeah.
I think when you say formative experiences, I'll hit a few on the head, and then if you want to go deeper on any of them, feel free. I think who we are today is a product of the past, of the things that have happened, also of our current mindset, our state of mindset. And I do want to get in later of how do you switch your mindset? How do you change your state of mind like that? Like if you're in a bad place, you're in a dark place, you're fighting demons, or you just can't snap out of the funk that you're in. How do you change your state of mind? That's something that I'm always enamored with, and myself, I'm always working on personally. I think for me, it stems back way back to as a child, my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers. So I'm youngest of 8 kids, 5 sisters, 2 brothers. Growing up with a single mom who we didn't have a lot of money, I think that instilled something in me, a work ethic that I didn't really know the state of mind of money. It was more about survival of how do you put food on the table every day and have a bed to sleep in, to be grateful. I grew up back in New Jersey on the Jersey Shore in a town called Brick. I look back of who I am today as a man, as a father, as a husband. I look at way back to my early childhood from age 5 to 10 and growing up with lunch tickets, those little orange tickets that when you checked in, you gave them to the cafeteria lady, but you were embarrassed to see your friends see you with those lunch tickets because that meant you were poor. I've had to do a lot of work on myself to this day, even with money and with how do you attract money and do good things with money, because I grew up with the mindset of that wasn't who we were. That's not who I am. And now I have shifted that and I have actually literally mantras of that I am worthy to attract and receive an abundance of money so that I can then go do great things with money to help people in their lives. So that would be one experience for me that impacts me today as a grown man looking back. All the way up through when I was in college, my best friend, my mentor, my father, who came back into my life when I was 10 years old, he actually had a heart attack and passed away at age 20. And I say that because that was one of the most challenging times of my life, of dealing with the death of my father as a young man. And he still to this day impacts me, who I am as a father and even as a husband. Again, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, but I learned what not to do and also what to do. And I learned some valuable lessons from him. And lastly, I'd say from an experience standpoint, when I was 25, I was playing professional football, Tony, over in Europe. That was my dream. From the time I was 5 to 25, I wanted to play in the NFL. I was a quarterback. I wanted to be an NFL quarterback. And I did everything I could to live my dream. I got a college scholarship to play football. When I was done, I didn't get drafted, so I went overseas. And at age 25, I had a crushing back injury, 3 herniated discs, spinal stenosis, degenerative back disease. I was left motionless on a football field in France playing in the World Football League. And I realized my dream at 25 was done. And I had to almost reinvent myself at that point in my life. And what I didn't understand, when you're going through a very, very difficult time of your life, when you're in the storm, when you're in the chaos, you don't realize how beneficial that it's going to be someday when you reflect upon that. But I went down a 5-year journey to heal my own back pain without surgery. And I did that. I lived in 13 cities in 5 years. I trained under gurus in the healing world, in both the East and the Western medicine world. I learned about pain and rehab and performance. And even though I had a degree in kinesiology, even though I had a massage therapy certification and a strength and conditioning certification, I never dealt with pain like that. And when I finally opened my own gym up in year 2000, 5 years after my back injury, it just so happened that the past 25 years of my life, I've been working with a lot of high-level athletes, entrepreneurs, and people who often have come into me in pain, but have big dreams of they want to play in the NFL or be an MVP, or they want to start a business or be successful in life as a teacher or a coach or a trainer or an attorney or an accountant or in the clergy, whatever it is. It's like you have a dream. And I look back now and I thank God for the pain that I've been through in a lot of different ways, because now I really get to proliferate that impact and realize even the own challenges and struggles that we go through today, myself included, are part of our story. So I know that's a long-winded, a long-winded answer, but those are just three big things that I kind of breezed over, and each have their own story, but at least frame up for our listeners today. Those are all things that happened, prior to age 25 that impact me as a man today on all levels.
And totally inspiring. One of our goals here is to normalize struggle. I think in
Mm.
today's appearance laden culture that is so social media oriented and where people project this, artificial sense of self, it's really important to see someone as successful and grounded and inspirational as you, who has turned crisis into opportunity, pain into purpose, struggle into strength. And so let's kind of go in depth into a few of those particular stories, one at a time. So, your parents divorced, you're the youngest of 8 kids. You say your dad comes back into your life at the age of 10. Can
Mm.
you talk to me about some of the experiences you shared with him throughout your life that made him your mentor and your best friend? And maybe talk a little bit about, I know he wrote you handwritten letters every day, every week when you were in college. So maybe kind of talk about the narrative arc of your relationship as he moved away from your life, came back in, and became such a pivotal role model that inspires you today.
What's interesting is every family has family dynamics, right? There are always these different dynamics. When you have 7 brothers and sisters, there are some tremendous dynamics. And the father I got to experience is actually a lot different of a father than my oldest siblings experienced. So when I was growing up, the father they knew was different than the father that I knew. Because between 5 and 10 years of age, my father actually, after my mom and he got divorced, he moved away to Colorado. Again, we lived in New Jersey. So I didn't have much of a relationship with my father between 5 and 10. I actually was an angry kid. I used to get in fist fights in school. I was on the ball field. They called me Tough Todd because I was always angry. And I didn't realize it at the time. That's just who I was. But I was playing with a little extra grit, I guess you'd say, just a little bit of anger. And it was probably stemming from me as a young child at age 5, right? Seeing cop cars show up at my home where I lived, things that really impacted me. But at age 10, my father moved back to New Jersey and came back into my life. And he encouraged me to do a few things. Number one, he encouraged me to try 3 different sports. I was finding great success in soccer at the time at age 10. He encouraged me to do basketball, baseball, and football. And I said, Dad, I actually am loving soccer. He's like, try for a year. If you don't like it, then, continue with soccer. And I did try it. Every young kid, especially boy, wants to please his father, make his father proud. And I tried those 3 sports, and I actually found great success at a very young age. I became a Pop Warner All-American after 2 years of playing football. And I was, really doing well. And in high school, I had the opportunity to start as a true freshman in football and basketball and baseball. I actually broke my ankle my freshman year, but I had 11 varsity letters in high school. But it was my freshman year in high school, and my father said something I'll never forget. I started my first varsity football game, and he said, hey, you know what? You're going to be a hell of a football player. You're going to need a mentor in your life. I'm like, what's a mentor? Like, what's that? He's like, listen, a mentor is a guide. A mentor is a guide who, when you reach success or failure, you're going to have a mentor be able to share things that give you wisdom and insight that most other people won't share with you. Could be a teacher, could be a coach, could be a parent. He said, you're always going to need one for the rest of your life. I said, Dad, can you be my mentor? And he smiled and said, absolutely. So between those years of high school and growing up, he was always there for me. He was at practice. He guided me through the recruiting process. And when I eventually went to school, to college, every single day, my dad would write a handwritten letter to me at college. Now, I grew up in New Jersey. I was going to school in Virginia at a college called William and Mary. Every single day. And Tony, when I say every day, I'm talking every day. I'd go to the mailbox. There'd be a letter in there. And it was typically on the back of a McDonald's menu because we didn't have a lot of money, and he ate at McDonald's all the time. And I would go in there, and I'd always know that there'd be newspaper clippings from the Asbury Park Press and a handwritten letter on the back of the McDonald's menu. Now, in that era, this is the late 80s, early 90s, we didn't have cell phones, right? Like, it wasn't like you just drop a text to, I have a son in college now. and you can drop a text, but the actual process of writing a letter. Why do I share that? Because up until age 10, the dad I knew, I didn't really know. It was just the dad that I always wanted to have. But between 10 and 20, what happened was my dad changed from a very driven type A personality to I'll say a very loving, caring, compassionate father and man. Why? Because when I was 10, he came back to my life. When I was dreaming of playing high school football someday, even at that point, I was with my dad when he had his first heart attack. Literally, I was with him, and he had a triple bypass when I was 10 years old. And I think my dad realized just how important time was. And from 10 to age 20, when he had his second heart attack, he valued time. I was the fortunate product of my dad's time where my other brothers and sisters weren't. He was off working his tail off 7 days a week. He moved to Colorado for a job. My parents were divorced. But when that happened, when he was 48 years old, he died when he was 58, that put a whole new perspective in his life. I was the fruit of him having a almost metamorphosis of his life. So here I am between 10 and 20 getting the benefits of his time and his energy and his love. And when he's writing handwritten letters, that's not normal. Most parents don't do that. But I think he realized and knew that he was on borrowed time. That's how that all went down. And when I was 20 years old, I was at William & Mary. I was in spring football. And when I got word that he had a heart attack and I flew home, it was the worst pain that any boy, any kid, any man could ever imagine when you lose your hero, coach, your mentor, your father, your parent. That turned me upside down for a long time. I questioned my faith. I questioned, should I go back to college? All of a sudden, football, which was important for pretty much my entire life from 10 up until that point, 20, it was no longer important. I thought about just quitting everything and getting in my car and driving across the country. I was lost. So that was definitely a very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I want to begin by honoring your share and how vulnerable and authentic and transparent you are in sharing the ups and downs of your relationship with your father. And it's remarkable how many similarities there are between our stories. My dad left when I was 9. I ended up causing so much mayhem, acting out of abandonment issues that my mom couldn't deal with me anymore. And she called my dad, and he had to come pick me up. And long story short, my dad has lived without the priorities of presence and time. And it wasn't until this last year that I sat him down and explained to him just how much his absence from my life has affected who I am and how I show up in the world and how I became a parent. And we had the opportunity to sit down on Galveston Bay as the wind is blowing giant waves up in our face and have a deep heart to heart, kind of mimics what you and your dad had when you asked him to become your mentor.
Yep.
And I got to say, hey, it's never too late, right? It's never too late until it is too late. And so if there are fathers or even adult children listening to this who have a rift or a gap in their relationship with their father, I'd encourage you to ask yourself how holding a grudge or inviting that distance is serving you, and whether or not you might be missing out on the opportunities that you do have. Because one thing that you said, Todd, that really resonated with me is that your dad became a softer, more compassionate person when he realized he was living on borrowed time. And that created a metamorphosis in his priorities and his values and his vision for how he wanted to spend his time. But the reality is, we are all living on borrowed time. We all, all we have is this moment. And how we choose to spend that time directly implicates how we cultivate relationships, how we take risks, how we grow and change, or whether we remain stagnant. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so grateful that your father was able to change his relationship with you and do so in such a powerful way. Because in today's society of modern technology, we don't write handwritten letters anymore, generally speaking. And so one of the things that I've been inspired by you, one of the many things, is on my daughter's birthday every year. My youngest daughter's turning 1 on December 5th, a few days from now. I write them a handwritten letter that talks about the wins, the struggles, the memorable moments of the year. So as whenever I do move on from this world, they will always have a artifact of my love that
Mhm.
they can turn to when times are tough and they miss me. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that.
And Tony, just so I don't forget this, this is an important takeaway, and I didn't mention it. My first ever Pop Warner game when I was 10, I went to put my helmet on before the game. And I put my helmet on and there was a note in there. I'm like, what is this? And it was a note, handwritten note from my dad. And he said, this is the first of many helmet notes. That started a tradition where he would write me a note, a handwritten note, and put it in my helmet before every game, all through Pop Warner, all through high school, and even into college, through college. Well, what do I do now as a dad of 3 kids, 19, 17, 14? I write them handwritten either helmet notes or cleat notes. Luke plays college football. Brady's a senior lacrosse player. And my daughter McKenna is 14. She's a soccer player, so she gets cleat notes. So when they go to put their
Yeah.
cleats on before the game, there's a handwritten note from dad. And I tell them to keep your notes because someday Pops isn't going to be on earth and you're going to want those. Like, as bad as I wish I saved all of my dad's helmet notes, I don't have those helmet notes. But I can tell you this, if I can create a legacy that goes beyond me where my kids have all my notes that are handwritten. I even have a grandfather, sir. He called himself grandfather, sir, a little box that, what would his wisdom be to my kids who never got to meet their granddad? I have a little box in there. So it's just a little Durkin tradition that we do. And if I can pass that along to a mom or dad today, kids might not appreciate it when they're 10, 12, 15 years old, but they sure are someday when they're going to be a parent again. Like, man, remember when mom or dad used to write me those cleat notes or those helmet notes? Well, that's something I learned at a young age that I pass on now, 40 years later, right?
Yeah. And I had the pleasure of following your relationship with your mom and seeing
Mm.
the love that exists between you two. And I know we've talked a bit about how your dad has shaped how you show up, but maybe talk a little bit about some of the more memorable experiences you've had with your mom and how they kind
Mm.
of have softened your heart and helped you become the amazing dad and coach you are today.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about your mom and your dad, right? Like they're different, and so grateful. I ask anyone listening in tonight, when you go before you go to bed, look in the mirror and look at yourself deep in your eyes and see your mom and your dad in your eyes. Because I still do that, and I love doing it because I can see my dad's eyes and I can see my mom's eyes. Because my mom, very very blessed at 89 years old now. She's a snowbird living in Florida. Just got a chance to see her recently. Is man, when I talk about a saint, my mom raised 8 kids with very little, and she epitomizes love. I wrote a book 2016 called The Wow Book, and one chapter is devoted to my mom. It's all on love, and I think I'm a pretty driven guy. I've got a lot of big goals. I want to save the world, and I want to change people's minds and all that. But the blend of compassion and empathy and love comes from my mom's side. Let me tell you, my mom, who's comes from a nurse, she's a nurse, that was her field. So she's a caretaker. I just can't say enough things about my mom and the sacrifices she made when I was growing up with very little, to the point when we had no money and had to move. The only thing I had, I said, Mom, please don't leave. Don't move out of this school district. I need to play for Coach Wolf. I need to play because Coach Wolf was a legend. He was the guy that, I wanted to play for and be like someday. And she sacrificed and rented a house, a small little 3-bedroom home in the district that I could stay going to the high school at Brick, New Jersey, where I could play for the venerable Coach Wolf. And she did that all the way up to massage therapy school and helping me go to massage therapy school, and little things that I realize now was a lot of money for a single mom. Man, the more I could spoil mom who's still living. And I'll tell you a quick story, Tony. When I was with her here recently down in Florida, my mom's having a cup of coffee, and I realized she puts 10 packs of sugar in her coffee. 10 packs of sugar. At first, I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Look, I'm having some sugar with my coffee. I'm like, you mean you're having some coffee with your sugar? I said, Mom, you go ahead. You do what you want. Because at 89 years young, if you're still living and living like you are, you go ahead and have your 10 packs of sugar for your coffee. So I love her. I'm very blessed to have a mom like her. She's one unique woman, and anything on the empathy, compassion, sacrifice side, the good-heartedness, I believe, comes from my mom, and I'm very, very grateful that she's still in my life.
And the many people who have benefited from your heart are also grateful for her. The other thing I noticed about your relationship with her and your siblings is that she gets a call sometimes between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., after another from each of your siblings. And that speaks to something that I also want to have as a talking point here, which is, for example, the country of Costa Rica has a greater life expectancy than the country of the United States, despite having a worse medical system. And why is that? Well, there's probably a number of reasons, but number one is the connection to family and the pura vida mentality, which is the laid back, no worries, stress free lifestyle. And to your point, you know, being a grandparent of 13 kids like your mom is, being a parent to 8 kids, and getting to experience life and love in such a big and meaningful way undoubtedly contributes to her dream and her legacy and her longevity. And yet another reason for anyone who's listening, if you have a rift with your family member, really question whether that's serving your health, serving your greater purpose in life. Because one of the things I admire most about you is your prioritization of family, and that had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and I think we all need, to your point, we all need things to look forward to. And my mom loves carrots. Like, she loves cruises. Like, she loves to go on cruises. Cruises and family keep her alive. Like, if we could have the family on a cruise, that'll keep her going another 6 months or a year. And we just got to keep one a year on the calendar, and she looks forward to it. Just like you and I might look forward to a family vacation or something. We all need these carrots here in early 2023. Are you looking forward to, what's next, what's coming up? My mom has these things that she always look forward to, and she loves family time. And we just know we have to have things on the calendar. So to your point, life is too short. And if there's things that you need to say them. And if it means you say, I'm sorry, then you say, I'm sorry, apologize, because the last thing you want to do is have regret because of something happens and you have this heaviness of regret on your shoulders of something that you did or something that happened. And all it takes is, making sure that you say what needs to be said and that you come from a place of compassion.
Amen. Amen. And I purposely didn't touch on the other two formative experiences that you brought up in the intro, because now that we understand a little bit more about your background and your upbringing, I want to transition to discuss your evolution as a parent and a professional. So can you please walk us through the journey, maybe starting at your injury and massage therapy school, to becoming an internationally recognized speaker, author, coach, and gym owner?
Yeah. I'll fast track it, and then you could ask any questions that you want. But after my back injury over in Europe, I went back to New Jersey and was rehabbing. And I was, when I say rehabbing, I was on Vicodin. I couldn't, get off of Vicodin. I was needing surgery. I was in a really bad place, but I did not want to have surgery. And that's when I went down all these different avenues of trying to heal my back pain. And one of those stops was my sister, Patty, my oldest sister of 5. She owns a day spa back in a place called Bay Head, New Jersey. Beautiful area, Victorian homes on the ocean, on the Jersey Shore. It's gorgeous. I'm at her day spa, and this woman comes up to me. She says, "Excuse me, Todd, your sister Patty told me your story. I understand you're an athlete. You just had a back injury, and that you're a trainer by trade, and my husband has a bad back. Do you think you could possibly help him?" I said, "Absolutely. I would love the opportunity to help him." She said, "You do house calls." I'm like, I don't even have a career at this point. Sure, of course I do house calls. She goes, "Okay, great. If you can come over tomorrow at 9 a.m., the address is 1 Mount Street. 1 Mount Street. That's that huge mansion on the ocean. Who is this?" and it was Jenna King. Jenna King was married to Michael King. Michael King owns King World Productions. King World Productions produces Oprah, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, American Journal. I'm like, holy, she's like, this is crazy. Next thing I know, Michael and I hit it off. And I became his trainer, his massage therapist, his body worker. And then the next thing I know, I'm living, although they're from New Jersey, they ultimately live in Malibu, California. They bring me to Malibu, California. I'm living in Sting's beach house. Sting, the singer Sting, not the wrestler Sting. I'm staying in, I'm like the Kato Kalin back in the day. I'm training Michael and all these folks out in Malibu. And Tony, you've probably been in this place in your life. I was like 26, 27 years old. I was making really good money as a trainer in LA, living the life on the outside. My buddies were like, on Wall Street, all jealous of me that I was living in Malibu and training all these Hollywood celebrities. And deep down, man, this is not where I'm supposed to be. How did I end up here? And I had Rob Reiner on one side of me as a neighbor and Tom Hanks on the other side. And I just wasn't happy. There was just something that I knew this isn't where I was supposed to be. I ended up going back down to California or back down to San Diego because my beat up old 1987 Volvo would have never made it back across the country. So I was like, I'll just go to graduate school. So I go to grad school at San Diego State, where I met my future wife on the first day of grad school. And upon graduation of grad school, I opened my gym, Fitness Quest 10. No idea what I was doing. I had no clients. I had no money. I had no business plan. I'm like, I just want to help people. Let me just try to open up a shingle and see what I can do with, refurbished fitness equipment, carpet on the floor, and hang a sign out saying, willing to train you one-on-one. Like literally, this is year 2000. Okay. One-on-one training studios did not exist. We were one of the first personal training studios, but I opened it with the vision and dream to be able to combine personal training and massage therapy because my background was on healing and performance training. As an athlete, as a quarterback, I wanted to work with athletes and I wanted to get into doing the massage therapy and body work, which I had done and was part of my own healing process that ultimately got me off of the Vicodin without surgery and allowed me to heal myself. And through that process of opening up and negotiating 3 months rent free, allowed me to get a start in my business, and then became the sports massage therapist for the San Diego Chargers in year 2002. Then the next year, I met LaDainian Tomlinson, my first NFL athlete who I started working with. He brought in Drew Brees, who's been my client now for 21 years. And it all of a sudden, things started happening. 2004 became the trainer of the year for IDEA. I started to present in 2005, and I love presenting. And then when you say, how do you become an internationally acclaimed strength and conditioning coach? Tony, that's not something I even to this day like, oh, I'm an internationally acclaimed trainer and coach. It really was just about being where my boots were at and trying to change lives. The more lives I changed, then all of a sudden I was getting this PR and people were starting to flock to San Diego and athletes would be flying out. And for the better part of 2 decades now, that's what I've been doing all the way up until the pandemic before we had to shut down shop. But in that time, I always kept growing and I kept my dreams alive to the point where we expanded business a couple times. I wrote my first book, The Impact Body Plan, in 2010. That catapulted me up on the national scene. I continued to speak more and more at fitness conferences and events and started a mastermind program for trainers and coaches because I love to mentor other coaches and trainers. So I just kept evolving and evolving. And I've never been one that's been comfortable just staying with where I'm at. Like it's this weird, I don't even want to say balance, but when you're balanced out, you do, I'll say dumb things to kind of like, okay, I'm too content. I got to do something more. I'm meant for more. And I'd pray about it. And next thing I know, it would expand, or I'd put out another book, or I'd put another program. And all the way up until the pandemic, when I really did a lot of soul searching. And I didn't mention it earlier on, but I'd say that was probably my fourth really big transitional time of my life where I had tasted so much success and significance in the fitness industry that I went into the pandemic burnt out.
Mm.
Beforehand, I was like running hard. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. And then I'm like, okay, suck it up. We got to go. We got to change the world. We got to save gyms and save lives. And I'm going to save everyone and put the weight of the world on my back. And anyway, that led me up to 2020, all of that. So there was a lot of success. We went from no trainers and no staff to 42 employees and trainers and massage therapists and Pilates and a great community of people here at Fitness Quest 10 to this day. But that's kind of a quick version of the ascent in the industry anyway.
And I want to talk about, three major points there. Number one, it's a choice to feel stuck. When you're in LA and you're making good money and you're training Hollywood celebrities and deep down, you're unhappy. I believe that we each have an intuition, a gut instinct that can,
Yep.
if we listen to it, if we tap into it, we can control our outcome in a lot of ways, and we can become the architect of our journey. So can you take me back to that moment? Like you're according to all superficial standards, you're achieving the American dream by virtue of growing these really meaningful and important relationships with people who matter, and you're still unhappy. What gave you the impetus, or what gave you the strength and courage to then go back to San Diego and go to grad school?
Yeah. Honestly, I just felt like a elbow piece to the Hollywood people. Like, oh, this is my trainer. I didn't get into training to be an elbow piece. I got into training to change lives. And I didn't feel like I was appreciated at the point where I was going to change someone's life. It was more of a status symbol. And that point, when you're dealing with those celebrities, it was, oh, this is my trainer. And it was almost like, oh, I have a trainer. And I was like, I didn't get into this industry to be a status symbol. I got into this industry to change lives. And I wanted to work with more athletes, and I wanted to really help more people who wanted to be helped. And I knew that's not where I was going to make my most significant impact. So I was like, there's no way. I mean, money, great, all of that. But again, I didn't grow up with money, so I didn't really care. It was great. I knew that in the few hours a day that I would work, I mean, it was easy, Tony. It was like the easiest money I ever have gotten and probably ever will get. But it was just more about happiness and fulfillment. I knew that's not where I was going to be able to tap into my deepest potential, and it required a change. And frankly, I couldn't drive back across the country because my beat up old Volvo wouldn't have made it. So I was like, I'm going to go to San Diego State. I called up San Diego State. They had a GA job available teaching weight training and racquetball. And I was like, I'm going to go hang out in San Diego for 2 years. And it was really the idea of going back into the unknown. And let me tell you what, it was liberating to go from getting paid really good money, but feeling like I wasn't really living my purpose, to go back to a poor graduate student, feeling like I was back on track, trying to find my North Star, because I had like 5 jobs when I was in grad school again. I was a grad student. I was a graduate teaching assistant. I was teaching at Cuyamaca College as an adjunct faculty, teaching pedagogy for PE, which I loved, thinking maybe I want to be like a professor or teacher. I was trying to get my ATC hours at the time. I think it was 1,500 hour volunteer hours at the University of San Diego. So I was volunteering 15 to 20 hours a week at USD. And I was also doing massage therapy and personal training whenever I could fit it in, just to make a little bit of money. So I had 5 jobs for 2 years. And really the most valuable part of that was realizing what I don't want to do. I didn't want to become an ATC. I knew after doing that, like, I didn't want to serve as an athletic trainer. I love being a faculty member in a community college, which actually led me to a job offer right when I was done with grad school. That's a different story of why I turned it down, because my wife got a job opportunity the same week here in San Diego. That's why I decided to open a business. And it was learning what not to do helped me steer me into, hey, I might as well try this new business thing and open up a shingle and see what it's all about. That's what led me ultimately away from LA. Is I knew deep down that's not where my future was going to be.
And now you are a leader in the industry after starting at the bottom and grinding your way up, serving people and helping them change and transform their lives. I want you to speak to the transition, or what allowed you to become the massage therapist for the Chargers. You open up a studio, one of the first personal training studios in San Diego. You're basically trying to start something from scratch, and then all of a sudden your world of possibility opens up, and you're training the NFL players that you wanted to help out when you were in LA. How did that work out?
I'm a big believer in setting strong intentions. Set strong intentions. I have no idea how intentions are going to come true. To this day, I have strong intentions. I don't know the answers, other than whenever I have set intentions, if it's supposed to come true, all of a sudden people start appearing in my life just at the right time. So a year and a half into my business, I was literally training 1 hour and walking in the massage therapy room. I had 2 treatment rooms, and I was doing body work the next hour. And one day, this woman who was doing Pilates here at Fitness Quest 10, she comes up to me and says, "Hey, I've got a husband with a bad back. I understand you had a bad back. Is that something you could help him with?" I said, "Absolutely, would love to." She sets up an appointment with her husband, and in walks her husband the next day, this behemoth of a man, 6'6", 320 pounds, and it was Vaughn Parker. Vaughn Parker was the starting left tackle for the San Diego Chargers. I had the intention for a year to somehow start working with athletes again, but I had no idea where to start, how to get in with them. Again, San Diego was still relatively new to me. I didn't grow up here. I didn't go to college here. I had been in Europe and all these different areas. And next thing I know, Big Vaughn Parker walks in, and I have a body work session with him. Tony, 15 minutes into my session with him on the table, my table breaks in half with him on it. Literally, the table, I'm doing this side-lying hip rotator release technique, elbows in his glutes, and he's like, "Oh, this is amazing." And I'm hearing this splintering sound, and I'm like, "Man, is that his back?" And next thing I know, the table breaks in half. Big Vaughn Parker, $20 million athlete at the time. $20 million is a lot of money, but back then it was a lot of money. It's like $100 million today. He's like, "What just happened?" I'm like, "I'm not sure," but we're 15 minutes in the session, and I'm like, "Let me do some Thai massage on you." Truth be told, I had just watched a DVD or VHS, I don't even know which one it was, on Thai massage like the week before. Next thing I know, I'm walking on Vaughn Parker's back. I'm doing all these Thai techniques and stretching him out. And he's like, "This is amazing. This is the best work I've ever had." I didn't know jack squat of what I was doing, Tony. It was the intention of, I'm going to try to help this guy's back, get his glutes, his hips, his piriformis, stretch out his psoas muscle. And he's like, "TD, that was amazing." He goes, "Do you think you'd be able to come down to the San Diego Chargers on Mondays after the games and do this type of work?" I'm like, "Well, I like to come down with a table that doesn't break and do the work." He called up the athletic trainer, James Collins. Next thing I know, weeks later, I become the therapist for the San Diego Chargers on Mondays for 2 years. I did that. That's where I met LaDainian. That's where I met Drew the first time. That opened up the whole world that I got into, was because of that experience of being nice to Kimberly Parker for a year and a half. No idea who she was. I didn't know her husband played for the Chargers. I was just here helping her out in our Pilates and what she was doing. And she said, "Hey, I hear you had a bad back. Could you help him?" So that's how that all started.
And honestly, that is some of the most inspiring stuff that we've had on the show so far, because I believe in 3 things. Number one, the power of intention and the ability for us to intentionally design our life. But number 2, that it just takes one conversation. It just takes one exchange of energy in a positive and meaningful way to take where you are and propel you to where you're going to be. And then third, the humility, right? The humility it must take to have a session be going super well, the table breaks, and all of a sudden you could have welled up in your cave and given up, but instead you laugh about it and you move on, right?
I laugh now about it. Right.
So and that opportunity is almost always out there, and it's just about showing up and walking through the doors, right? Quick segue, because I know around those times, when was Luke born, your oldest?
He was in 2002. And
Okay.
Tony, why you asked that, I would say this, so I don't lose my train of thought. It takes having the vision or the dream of what you want to do with your life, but being uber present in the right now in conversation. I've always had that ability, but I'm aware of it, of being right now. The only thing that matters is this conversation in this podcast, and having that ability in every conversation throughout the day today this is the most important thing I could do. Not living in, I have all these dreams and visions for 2023 and what we're going to do, and living in la la land, that you're just living in dreamland. And I love dreams, but how do you have a strong vision and big goals in that, but really dominate them right now? And that's what I did back then with Kimberly Parker and Vaughn Parker, and how I worked when I was working with Drew and LaDanian and these guys. And I think it's because how you treat people along the way, and you're not always forward thinking so much to what's next, but what's right now. How do you have both? How do you compartmentalize that? So I just wanted to share that, because I think that's something that's important, because our brains get so scattered nowadays. There's so much going on, so much busyness. How can we slow down enough in the beginning of this year here to slow down, to really focus on what's most important with every conversation? Because many times we're trying to juggle 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 things at a time. And that could ultimately distract you from living out your intentions as well. So anyway, back to, Luke was born in 2000.
Well, but I got to reflect on this, because part of mindfulness that we promote on the show and in our business is training that
Yes.
focused attention and really honing in on active listening. And that begins by being grounded at home in who you are, and being able to set aside your ego in a lot of cases, because especially someone as successful and driven and focused as you have so many spinning buckets that without taking that quiet time to ground in yourself and your habits, you might have that monkey brain where you're constantly half in and half out of conversations. You might have the inability to focus on the opportunity in front of you, and you might miss out on it.
Yep.
Right. But because this is a show geared toward parents, and because, as I understand it, 2000, 2005 is when you kind of open Fitness Quest 10, you've graduated from San Diego State. These big moments are happening in your professional life. And yet you have this new baby boy, and Melanie's starting at, was she at Southwestern at the time?
Correct.
Or a different, okay.
Yep.
She's a professor at Southwestern College. She started at Southwestern. How are both of you managing to balance your priorities in your career with that beautiful, innocent, loving baby boy that needs your attention and your love and your time?
I don't know if I have the perfect answer for you or not, because looking back and reflecting, when you are a young parent or you're a parent of young kids, you are in survival mode. There's no book that's written on how to be a great dad or mom. And looking back, Melanie did an amazing job. She really did. And as a professor, teacher, I always say she's got the best schedule in the world. She's got summers off, every holiday off. But when you're a business owner, you're on 7 days a week. Melanie was an amazing mom. She is an amazing mom this day. But back then, when Luke was born, we got married in 2001. We had a child in 2002. And looking back, I was in major hyper growth mode of the business. Things were on a meteoric rise. I found my true purpose at the time of just really growing things and working with people, and love the challenges as a young entrepreneur. And all of a sudden, Luke comes along, and it brought a whole deeper meaning and purpose, right? When you have your first child, is all of a sudden now you're playing for something more than yourself. And I loved that aspect of being a dad. I really did. But I also was in major growth mode of the business. So I'd say for the first few years, Tony, it was trying to figure it out. Melanie did a better job than me figuring it out, because I was working 7 days a week. And I don't say that to brag. I don't. I think I would change that if I was to go back today and not do what I did back in the day. And then people are like, well, yeah, but would you change where you are today? No, I wouldn't. But I don't think I would have had to teach at Outdoor Adventures for 3 hours on a Sunday morning for 3 years to get to what Fitness Quest 10 became. I don't think I'd have to work 4 sessions every Saturday, half day, because I love training and not go to the birthday parties in the jumpies when they were 2 years old. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like, they're not going to remember when they're 2 years old. So why do I need to go? Like, that was the hard-headedness, stubbornness of a father that I was like, I'm trying to grow my business, and these people are depending on me, and their session matters more. So I don't want to pretend to be that I was perfect. I know that I loved my family more than anything, and my faith was most important. We'd go to church every Sunday, and we'd spend a lot of time together, and that's all I did. I didn't go out with the boys and have boys' weekends and everything else. It was faith, family, and truly Fitness Quest 10.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're just so honest and that you don't try and sugarcoat things, because yeah, the past is a rearview mirror and we don't want to spend too much time fixating or attaching to that, but there is some kernels of wisdom we can glean and share with others, right? That maybe it is important to set more meaningful boundaries so that we can have those pivotal experiences with our kids and experience growth, right? But also, you spoke to something really special, which is that as a new parent, the stakes are different because life is no longer about you exclusively.
Right.
And how it takes some courage and bravery to go all in your craft to make sure that you can have that legacy, you can have that freedom for your kids to grow into the best versions of themselves. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to speak specifically to someone who is struggling and feels like a failure in balancing that role as a dad and a business owner. Maybe they're failing as a business owner because they're spending too much time being a dad, or vice versa. They're spending too much time being working on and in their business, and they feel like they're a failure as a dad. What would you say to them that can help them along in their journey?
Number one, I'd say this: stop beating yourself up. Stop beating yourself up right now. Don't beat yourself up anymore. We're not perfect. We're never good enough. I'm never good enough as a dad. I'm never good enough as a coach or a trainer. I haven't achieved that. Right? We beat ourselves up so bad to the point where we just feel horrible about ourselves. So number one, stop beating ourselves up. Stop beating yourself up. Two is this: I think there are seasons in a year. In a year. So this is the beginning of 2023. There's seasons. There are going to be seasons where you have to sprint hard at work, and your family might take a little bit of a back seat. Now, as long as that season doesn't go all year and you don't correct that, then that's okay. So what I mean by that is this: when I wrote my first book, Impact Body Plan, I told my wife I was going to be a horrible husband and father for 10 weeks because I had 10 weeks to write that book. I was locked in a room writing the book. But I also knew I took several weeks right when that was done to shut down work, and I didn't work, and I was going to be the dad, a heroic dad and husband during that time. And that's what I did. To this day, what I'll do, even when my kids were very, very young, and if you're struggling now, is even if your kids are very young, the most important thing that we can do as parents, we don't own our kids, by the way, God owns our kids. We don't own our kids, is to make sure they understand your purpose and why you do what you do. So when I was in 2005 and 6 and 7, starting to hop on more planes to go speak at conferences, yes, I was trying to grow my career, but I was stepping into my deepest purpose to impact thousands of people. So I knew that I need to tell my kids that daddy's got a dream and a deep purpose. And the most important thing that you can do, young man or young girl, young boy, is to get a purpose in life. Like, it didn't do me any good to sit around and watch football all Saturday and Sunday when I could be inspiring people on a stage just so I could be there on my phone and my kids could feel my presence, but I wasn't fully present because I was on my phone watching football, right? So the most important thing I believe a parent could do is instill a purpose and a drive in their child to know that there's a meaning to life, and you got to find out the meaning of life. And I don't want your meaning of life to be about my meaning. You got to create your own. And that's going to be something that happens at a young age when they see you working your tail off and they see you doing, things that are going to entail sacrifice. But that needs to be communicated to them. So when you're working on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Wednesday night or whenever that is, they understand that. It doesn't mean, oh, it's an excuse to go work. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's seasons. So if you're beating yourself up, there's times when you need to make sure you prioritize your family and they get all your attention. There's also times when they got to see you, not be able to go to a ball game or go to something because you've got to do something that is around your deepest purpose as well.
And I love that you make your purpose and the ways in which you serve about people and groups and the world, things that are larger than yourself, because that modeling is the way in which we change the world. We believe that one generation of present and available parents who are modeling
Mm.
service to others can change the world in a super meaningful way. You are a testament to that because you've made it your mission to impact, I believe, 10 million people in your lifetime. Am I right?
Right. Yep. 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 Yep.
And we'll get to in a moment what impact means to you. But I believe that if everyone had that understanding that there are seasons of your life that you have to be both present and available to your kids and demonstrate to them that life is about something bigger and to search constantly for purpose and impact and service. And thank you for sharing that
Well,
because
no.
I think,
Yeah, and I think it's important because starting at age 5, I would start to take Luke on. You get one trip a year with me. Come with me. It's just me and you, and you're gonna be on stage with me. So that when he or Brady or McKenna would go on stage and they'd see the people, they'd understand that if there was something that I couldn't attend, they saw what I was doing, right?
mm,
And the hope was to instill in them that when you have a deep purpose someday in life, that it's to serve. And when God ordains a purpose in you, the most important thing that you can do is be obedient to that purpose. So a season could be a week long, by the way, Tony. It could be, hey, I'm going to work my tail off this season, this week, and I'm going to take Saturdays and Sunday off. But there's also going to be seasons where you're going to be working 7 days a week, and there's going to be seasons where you're working no days a week. And it's the evolution of that season that you can say, okay, as a parent, you're never perfect, and goes back to your original question. If someone's beating themselves up or struggling right now as a parent, listen, parenting is hard. I used to think when they were young, I'm like, I can't wait for their like teenagers and grown up. My kids are teenagers now, and I don't know, they're teenagers, and there's those circles of friends, and there's all this other stuff you got to deal with. It's like the most important thing I can do, and I learned this from Pastor T.D. Jakes, not to instill my purpose in them, but to make sure that they see that you have a deep purpose and that you can somehow inspire their purpose at a young age to realize that there's something deeper in life than you just being there. And I learned that from Kevin Plank, who's the founder of Under Armour. I asked him that 2010, we're at the Super Bowl. Drew was playing in the Super Bowl, and I asked KP, I said, Kevin, man, how do you, as a dad, like you're on the road all the time. I was still trying to figure it out in 2010. He's like, listen, he goes, I'd rather make my kids know I'm trying to change the world with a very, very big vision versus just being, someone at home that sits around, is there to be there, but it's not fully present. And I'm like, I like that. I like the fact that when you're on a mission, then take your kids along for the mission and help try to inspire their mission. And if they're young, that's okay. They're there with you, seeing what dad or what mom does. So don't beat yourself up. Know that we're never perfect. There's things I wish I could go back and like, maybe I should have didn't go on that trip and that. But when you're being guided by faith, you just say, God, where do you want me today? Where do you want me to serve today? Should I be speaking at this conference or not? And it's up to you to make that decision.
yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I want to zoom in on the ways in which our listeners can benefit from your wisdom by talking about your role as a coach, an author, and a
Mm.
business owner. You host the podcast, the Impact Show.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what impact means to you and perhaps talk about, one of the most important lessons you've taken through your podcast?
Mm. What does impact mean to me? Well, get emotional, but it's kind of my life, man. It's impact is changing lives. My tombstone statement someday is gonna be the impact man. Right? That's to me, it's legacy. It's if I can inspire people to live a better life, then that's my mission and that's my legacy. Yeah, I got them on both arms, right? Like a lot of my athletes wear impact bands, and technically it means live inspired, master your craft, play at world class, take action, condition for greatness, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and be tenacious. But impact really is a way of life. And when I wrote the Impact Body Plan in 2010, it didn't have that acronym. It was just an impact. And Tony, when I wrote that book, Men's Health in Rodale, publish my first book. And I was really excited until I walked into Rodale's offices in New York City just about a month before it was supposed to come out. I had written that book in 10 weeks. As I said earlier, I walk into the CEO and president of Rodale Books, and I walk in so excited for the Impact Body Plan. I walk in to his office, and there it was, the Impact Body Plan, but it wasn't called the Impact Body Plan. It was called a different title called True Strength. I'm like, what? Why is my picture on it like this, like the Impact Body Plan? He's like, hey, we decided to change the title of your book. It's no longer called the Impact Body Plan. It's called True Strength. See, Todd, when I hear impact, I think car crash. What? Wait, I just sold my life for 10 weeks and you changed the title? He said, yes, we did. And if you want to go to print in a month, it's called True Strength. Tony, I walked out. I made a phone call and I said, I'm not going to print. He thinks impact means car crash, and I think something totally different. Now, in 2010, I got to be honest with you, I didn't have the same formality of thinking of what impact was then. I just knew in my heart of hearts, my gut was impact is a soulful word for me. Soulful, like it's impact, like it's going to be a positive impact in this universe. Well, a month later, the book came out. It was called The Impact Body Plan. And the moral of the story is sometimes you got to stick by what you believe in. And if it means fighting, arguing, going to court, whatever you got to do, sometimes you got to do it. And if it means not going to print, if that didn't come out, I would have been okay with that. Yeah. And then the Impact Body Plan came out, and Impact now 13 years later, it's 2023, is now, it's part of my DNA. Everything I do is my Impact Journal and Impact Coaching, all these different things that I have. Is this going to impact someone's life? That's what it means. And my Impact Show, that's part of my message every week. I have my podcasts, and I try to motivate and inspire people to greatness every week, like yourself, Tony.
And you are such a powerful force. You use the term fire-breathing dragon. You are such a powerful force of love and light and inspiration, vulnerability, transparency, authentic connection. And if there's one thing that I want the audience to really know about you, is that you do get what you see, right? That he is present and there with you in every moment, as a coach, as a mentor, as a speaker. He is there, and he firmly believes that it is his purpose to light you up and help you see who you are. And maybe speak to a few of the ways. I mean, you hinted at the new journal that's coming out. I just want to talk about the two things that I have readily available. I've been working through this, helping us get very precise vision and clarity on our purpose and our dreams this year. The God-Sized Dreams Planner, which I know the 2023 version is out now.
Yep.
And then we'll also talk about what's next in a moment, but maybe just give a high-level overview of the particular ways the audience can engage the work that you do.
Yeah, the God-Sized Dreams Planner just came out, the 2023 God-Sized Dreams Planner. And really, it is a planner on how do you plan and create your best year, all the way down into the day, meaning, but there's 62 questions that I would invite anyone over the next couple weeks to spend a couple hours really framing up, reflecting on last year, 2022, lessons learned and all that, all the way into how can you get so poignant about what you want to achieve physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, relationally, with adventure, with your finances, with your impact and legacy, right? So that's one aspect of the planner. Along with, I have my whole system in there. I have my 10 forms of wealth and 3 and 30, which is all goal setting for the month, down into my weekly plan, down into your daily calendar. It's like if you use a to-do list, the planner is the solution, all in one, to make sure you have everything in one. I'm old school. I like to write things out with my daily to-dos and my weekly list, so it's all in one area. So that's the God-Sized Dreams Planner. And then this year, I'm really excited. I just came out last month, December, with first ever, my Impact Journal. I have been journaling for decades. I always get asked about journaling and how do you journal and why do you journal? And to me, journaling is very important to get to the here and the now right now. And I talk about like living in the now, like how do you dominate your day? how do you just win your day? So the God-sized dream planner is like your life and your year and all the way into the week and the day. But the journal is 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Take these prompts and spend the first few minutes writing down the answers to these prompts. And at the end of the day, I haven't seen another journal, and I've used a lot of different journals that had an evening journaling routine with different prompts about reflecting on your day. Why? Well, frankly, because the last 3 years during the pandemic, I was sleeping like garbage. My energy was shot. I was burnt out, literally. And I had to reframe my entire system. So I started to do some journaling at night and spend the last hour in immense personal care. Part of that was journaling. So in my new impact journal, which is right here, is there are prompts in the evening that allow you to reflect upon the day. What are a few of the most important things I accomplished today? How did I create the most impact today? What could I have done better? What's my health, fitness, energy rating right now? What's one word I feel right now? And what's gratitude? What gratitude do I feel right now? What am I most grateful for? I bookend the morning and the evening with gratitude, because when you start your day with gratitude and you end your day with gratitude, when the head hits the pillow, you're going to be much more restful and you don't have as much angst or anxiety going on, so you can get a higher quality sleep. So I created this journal literally to help people dominate their day. And I'm excited for it. It just came out a few weeks ago, and people are already sharing great things on social media and everything about it. So I'm really excited for those brother and sister companion products as well.
Awesome. And assuming that somebody's a fit pro or somebody wants to become involved in one of your coaching programs, you mentioned the Mastermind Impact Coaching Program. Can you speak to those things real quick?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a fit pro, the Mastermind coaching program is definitely where you want to hang. And I love coaching fit pros and coaches. That's just, go to todddurkinmastermind.com, todddurkinmastermind.com. 2 years ago, I started my God-Sized Dreams coaching program, God-Sized Dream. This is for non-fit pros. It actually involves all aspects of life, and we have all different industries. It's really for people who might be a little empty, lost, burnt out. They're looking for more clarity for their deeper purpose. And we've got a 90-day God-Sized Dreams coaching program, which allows us to create really deep impact in that 90-day coaching program. We're in the middle of one right now. We only launch them at certain times of the year. But if you go to todddurkin.com, you can learn more about our God-Sized Dreams coaching program. That's something that my heart is around, because it involves faith, it involves fitness and health, it involves personal growth in a lot of different areas, including how do you go deeper on your purpose and how do you create that legacy that we all desire to have in our lives.
Yeah. And all the proceeds for this book that we wrote together, What's Next, a book featuring 28 experts in the industry's opinion on the future of the health and wellness industry following the COVID pandemic. All those proceeds go to your 501c3, your Impact Foundation. Yep. That goes to help support people. Can you briefly talk about what you believe to be the future of the industry and how we can continue to shine light and to be instruments of change in a society that so desperately needs us?
Yeah. First off, Tony, thank you for being part of this project. And I'm really, really proud of the project. I love what you have written in your chapter. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because the Impact Foundation, when I started that in 2012, now has given over $250,000 to individuals and families in need. And that's something that my wife, Melly, and I are spending more and more time with these days, is the foundation, the Impact Foundation. And the latest book, which just came out last fall here, October, What's Next? Igniting Change and Impact in Health, Fitness, and Life Right Now. Really, it stemmed from an idea of, I was alluding to it earlier, people are like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Tony, I actually started resenting that question, what's next? Like, why does there always have to be what's next? Can I just be not happy with right now? Just right now, can I just be content with where I am today? What I learned was, before the pandemic, was I got bored with success. I hate to say that, but I got bored. Like, I needed a deeper challenge. I didn't understand when LaDainian Tomlinson told me in 2006, after he won the NFL MVP, and he comes to me as his coach and trainer, says, "Hey, TD, what's next?" like, what do you mean, what's next? Go get another one. Go get another one. Go get another one. Well, in 2016, after I did Strong, and 17, I did NBC Strong, and there was a certain level of success, I was like, there's got to be something more and deeper. I once heard that success is sometimes a lonely road. And I was, in a weird way, I had all this, quote, success, but it was somewhat lonely. And I needed something more and deeper. And I was praying about, God, what's next? The same question I would always kind of resent when people are like, hey, what's next? I just wrote another book. Why is there got to be another next? I just wrote another program and this. So there's got to be a next. Can I just be, maybe you can relate to this or maybe not. But when I finally wrote What's Next with you, Tony, and 26 other people beside the two of us, it really was because there's a time that right now, if there's ever a time that this world needs some light and love and impact, it is right now. In a time where all we hear about on the news, if you happen to watch the news, is all the bad news and inflation and mortgage rates and hate and anger and killings and this and that. If there's ever a time that it needs to be ignited with positivity and optimism and light and fire-breathing dragons to infiltrate the universe with more positivity, it's now. So it was like, you know what? Let's create this project, What's Next, and find the biggest game changers in the universe, guys like Tony Johnson, who are committed to say, you know what? I'm going to stand for this, and I'm going to be one of the people who's going to make a difference in thousands of people's lives. And that was the impetus of What's Next, is if there's ever a time that health, fitness is needed, it's now. If there's ever a time that mindset is needed, it's now. You talk about mindfulness all the time on this podcast and in your coaching, Tony, and in life. If there's ever a time for that, it's right now. So what's next is right now. So many people are angry or are living depressed, and they're down, they're empty, they're burnt out. Maybe that's you listening in today. And if you are in that state, congratulations for finding this podcast today and finding Tony and as a guest on his show today, is that there's hope. And it's through personal care. It's through taking care of yourself and being more mindful and listening to more of these podcast episodes and taking care of your own health and fitness and mindset and faith walk. These are all things that will help you, but we got to change that state now. So What's Next is a book that was written from the bottom of my heart. I used to resent the question, what's next? How about what's right now is I'm happy, I'm content, I'm fulfilled, I'm significant, not successful. I'm significant. I'm making a difference. I'm creating impact in this world that so desperately needs more people who are going to light this place up with positivity. So that is what's next, is right now.
And even the image on the book, a lighthouse, you staring into the future and honing your power as a light for the world, has inspired my youngest daughter's name, Ellie, a bright light, because we were in a dark place when we decided that our family needed to grow in love. It became even more challenging and difficult and hard as the pandemic extended well beyond what anyone thought it could be. And one thing I know to be true is that our breath, our movement, and our mindset can turn any crisis into any opportunity. And I'm so thankful for you coming on today, Todd, to share your story, share your mission and your legacy, and to share your heart. Because I believe that organic change to all of these conditions that we're facing begins with conversations like these, where people can notice that their problems are temporary, that they have the ability within themselves to channel the strength within and to lean into the power of community to overcome whatever they're facing. And so thank you very much for sharing your heart and for being a mentor to Amanda and myself, because without you, I gotta say, and this will come out in future episodes, I'm not sure I'd be here. I gotta be honest. I am not sure I would be where I am today without your presence and your inspiration. So thank you.
Wow. Tony, that's powerful. Thank you for what you and Amanda are doing. And, you know, as you found this podcast episode, I can't wait to hear more of your future episodes and you sharing that story, because the one thing that I'm finding is more and more people are sharing their story with me on DMs and things like that, of they're contemplating doing some deep, dark stuff. one of the things I'm most passionate about here in 2023, I just wrote it in my annual strategic plan, and the God Size Dreams planner is suicide prevention. Kids need help today. Man, kids need help. This pandemic wrecked people. So I'm on a mission. I'm on a crusade right now to help more kids in 2023. Obviously adults as well, but it's paining me to see these kids hurting. I don't want to go to another funeral of a suicidal kid, a kid I coached. I don't want to go to one more of those things. Man, I think the more open we are, Tony, about the struggles we've been through, what you've been through, you're not alone. People, you're not alone, right? So when you say get your mind right, what does that mean? It's winning the battle between your ears every single day. Get your mind right, get your mind right, get your mind right. You're like, oh, you're the get your mind right guy. Yeah. You know why I'm the get your mind right guy? Because I got to get my mind right every darn day. I got to win the battle between my ears. And if you want to change your psychological state, then change your physiological state. So get out in nature, get out and go for a walk. It doesn't have to be a mind-blowing exercise, routine. Just get out and move your body and watch what happens to your psychological state when you change your physiological state, right? So it's every single day. We don't have to be guided by emotions and circumstances. Just do it. The discipline to get up and do it. Get up, say, I'm going to listen, to an episode on the pod, and just start moving your body and watch what happens.
You're a blessing to the
I
world.
go on and on, by the way.
Yeah, I know you can. I know you can. You're a blessing to the world, and I'm so grateful you spent the time with us today. And if our listeners want to find you on social media, what handles can they go to?
Pretty much anything Todd Durkin, Instagram, Todd Durkin, Facebook, Todd Durkin or Todd Durkin FQ10. I've got a couple different Facebooks. So check it out. Podcast, Todd Durkin Impact Show. And I just encourage anyone, if you like motivational emails, I write a motivational email every Monday. Just go to todddurkin.com and sign up for our emails. I share our podcast on there, but sometimes just my inner thoughts of, where I'm at. And that's not always inspirational, but it's real and it's authentic. And sometimes people find inspiration in knowing that, not everything's always sunshine and rainbows, and that you just got to keep battling. So just go to todddurkin.com if you want to be on the email list.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much. And I hope you have a beautiful day. And I look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you, Tony. Keep up the great work.
Wow, what an episode. Thank you for listening. We hope you took some meaningful tools and skills that empower you to become your highest self in every way.
We also hope you'll help us spread our messages of solidarity, social support, and consciousness raising by subscribing to our YouTube channel @Mindful&Fit and offering us an honest 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts.
Doing so helps more people hear these important messages of love, healing, and becoming.
And as always, much love from the Johnson family. We hope you make today amazing.
Just like you.